Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man, the myth, the legend, the second runner-up to the world's shortest man contest, and a big special mention for not having a belly button. The man on top of the hill. We call him the King. King Karl. How are you, Big?
Yo. I didn't know. That's a good competition to take down. Shoots. Well done. That's the Stampede.
We've all got our things, and for you, it's I'll go to the world's strongest man. You go to the world's shortest man. It's you got to keep things in perspective, my friend.
We do, buddy. Keep me humble. Well done. Tell us, man. What do we got? We got some questions lined up here, brother?
Wouldn't it be funny if one day I just said no, not a single one, and I just
I'm sure that's coming. Coming.
Yeah, well, there you go. You know what? Not going to be this week. So I've got a bunch here. So let me just look through here. I've got them sort of organized. So the first one, somebody wrote in and said, my client is thinking of selling their lawn care business. Lawn care, geez, there's snow on the ground. Is this a direct courage?
Yeah, exactly. What was the last bit? Is this what?
Your COVID cough was covering that up there. Is this a direction you'd encourage? And if so, any tips?
Any tips? Okay, so you're right. They're not where we're at. There's a foot of snow where we're standing. But anyways, yeah, for sure. Look, if guy wants to sell, he wants to sell. Again, you got to do the old little red arrow. You are here, right? You got to assess the situation. Get a picture of what it is that they want, and it appears in this instance they want to sell. You're going to lose the client, word of warning, right? Once they sell, there's a chance that the person that buys it takes you on, but that's improbable. Not impossible by any stretch, but improbable. Look, when you're selling a business, 3 places you go immediately: the number one employee, do they want it? The number one client, do they want it? And then, of course, go to competition. So those are the first places that you go. If with a little bit of strategy in mind, one of the things that you might want to think about in this, not necessarily this situation, but as an overarching strategy, when you've got staff, if you put together like an incentive program where once they hit X milestones, and these would be some pretty big milestones, and this would be a ripper employee, but you offer them, 2% of the company, 5% of the company, they can earn 10% of the company. In some cases, they might want to buy in, what have you. But if you think about it, if this same business had one of their employees that now own 10%, it would be super obvious who you would go to sell the other 90% to as your first. And they may not have the money nor the inclination, but this is what you do. But as an overarching strategy, that can be a really good idea. A lot of folks are completely bought in or sold on the fact that they need to own 100% of their company, and that is absolutely not the case. You own 51% of your company, then you're making the decision. So that's something. So having an employee that owns 10% of the company can actually be a really good thing. Like for another day, but that would have made this a lot easier. And if that doesn't work, like you go to the employee, you go to the top client, you go to the competition, nobody's interested. That's probably a bad sign. That's probably not going to sell very well. But you put it on site like Biz Buy Sell is an example. I've done a lot of trade on that. Biz Buy Sell, put the business up and see what goes on, or see what happens. Here's something else though. When they do go to sell it, the question is who's going to negotiate the sale. And generally speaking, like there's a reason why all pro athletes have agents and they don't go in and do it themselves. Having a business broker, and then I'm going to put before that a good business broker, an accomplished business broker, and one who's got referrals and people that you can speak to, et cetera. A good business broker to go in and negotiate on your behalf would be a really good idea. and they're just going to get you a better price. They're probably going to get the deal done a little bit quicker. Just for a bunch of different reasons. You're too emotionally, the owner of the business is too emotionally attached to the whole thing. Much again, think of a pro athlete situation, going in there and trying to negotiate their own contract. So they don't normally get the best deal. So that's the answer to that. Yeah, it's nothing wrong with that. You're going to lose the client, but that being said, that could be one for the, like when you're talking about your clients and the stories that you're telling, picture yourself on stage, or you're sitting with a client or got them on the phone and you're trying to get them over the line. When you start talking about how one of your, I was coaching a lawn care company and they sold for 7 figures, right? When I met them, they weren't even, they had no thought of selling the company. And then X amount of months or a couple of years later, basically we packaged this thing up, boxed it up, and got them a 7-figure check. So these are the types of things that happen when I work with my clients. That can be a great success story, and one that can raise some eyebrows and get you some clients. So that's what I'd say to that, Road Dog. No problem. That's a fine one.
Beauty. Hey, by the way, what's the best way to watch a fly fishing tournament?
What? No idea. Why?
Live stream.
You jerk off. I love it. I don't know.
I've got dad jokes galore. All right. I've got a lot of. I thought that was
my daughter. When we were away skiing, my daughter, I always, poor thing, I always put her, hey, you got to tell a joke. Anyway, so she gets up and she says this, what does she say? She says, my teacher told me to have a good day, so I just went home. And you can imagine. Yeah, there you go. Everybody pisses their pants. But
the next time she asks you, hey, Daddy, can you tie my shoe, or can you put on my shoes? Just say, I don't think they fit me.
All right. Well done. Let's keep moving on from our dad jokes. Well done.
The last thing we need to do is go down more rabbit holes with you, but dad jokes. You could have like a whole dad joke segment, but we're going to move on. And this seems very fitting. This person wrote in, I'm painfully disorganized. Any hacks or tips for keeping my business under control?
Okay. Knew that was coming. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Painfully disorganized. First of all, I get an old saying that if you can sell, you can't coach. And if you can coach, you can't sell. And again, that's clearly not black and white. But if somebody's painfully disorganized, generally speaking, you're going to find that this person's going to be the, good salesperson and not so great at the follow-up and the coaching. But so hacks, I am not the most disorganized guy in the world. That's for darn sure. And I surround myself with analytical people, right? So, partner up or hire somebody on the back end, like you make messes and then they clean them up. So think about surrounding yourself with analytical folks. But look, I'll tell you, checklists are magic for somebody who's disorganized. I flew a plane recently, and I got to tell you, like the checklist that you had to go through before I jumped behind the wheel, which was incredibly cool, by the way. But the checklist was absolutely exhausting. Like when nurses implemented a checklist in the ICU, and this is like, you just Google this and you'll see it right there. But they have basically a checklist halved the stay period in the ICU when the nurses implemented it, right? Or if you ever go to a grocery store, again, you can save yourself an absolute fortune. Look, like a checklist can, somebody who's highly, what do they say? They were highly disorganized, painfully disorganized. This person's probably got a little bit of a chaotic mind. Well, think of a checklist of bringing order to a chaotic mind, because a chaotic mind can be your greatest gift, right? Like a lot of the greatest entrepreneurs on the planet are well known to have ADD on steroids, but what they're able to do is harness it. So that chaotic mind, a checklist can be something to take that chaotic mind and bring order to it. In other words, make it into a positive versus a negative. It also, like a checklist will bring a higher standard. Think of the ICU example. Anxiety, like if you're painfully disorganized, generally speaking, you're probably going to suffer, have a little bit of anxiety, if not a lot of it. Checklists will help you with that. Not to mention, it'll help you sleep. Something with a checklist, they say that you want to keep it to 9 items or less. It's a little bit of an X factor, but also don't mistake a checklist with a to-do list, right? Like Warren Buffett, I think we talked about this in the last couple of weeks, but Warren Buffett will say you have to move something out in order to move something in, right? So in other words, make decisions quickly. And by doing that, what you're doing is you're moving those items out, right? So, just look, learn to do things faster. You've got so much more capacity than you realize. I think it's David Goggin. I might be messing up his name, but the big black dude that's like strongest and most disciplined man, Navy SEAL, everything else, real famous guy right now. You Can't Hurt Me, I think is the name of his book. But anyways, he says something to the effect that the average person is they think that they're operating at 100%, but they're really operating at 30, right? Like not even half of their potential. So again, and this is part of why you kind of feel disorganized, right? Because again, you've got so much stuff, and then you're not like one touch rule. When you get the email, just reply to it without hesitation, or make the call, fill out the paperwork, and then send it wherever you got to send it. Stop putting it on your to-do list to do for later. What that does, it creates stickiness, which is a brutal thing, because you just end up with this to-do list that you're never going to get through. Right? Like Road Dog, you look at your to-do list for today, my to-do list, anybody listening's to-do list, you're not going to get through it. Like it's not happening. Right? So basically just the things that and then what happens is when you get the stickiness, you get this really mundane, like the 80-20 rule, right? Like again, you get your 20 stuff, on your to-do list, and it just sticks. And it's part of that chaotic mind. Right? So, that's think of the day before you go on a holiday. Like, how do you perform? We both know you make the phone calls, you send out the emails, you empty your inbox. You're an absolute superstar performer on the day before you go. So if you think about it from a Michael Jordan standpoint, he refers to that as falling into the zone, right? He fell into the zone and he just literally couldn't miss. Well, you've got the same thing, but the challenge is you got to be able to manufacture it. Or another, maybe a horrible example, maybe a great one, but we've got buddies, right? Road Dog, we were talking Huntsy on New Year's. He's shotgunning beer, right? On Facebook Live, hilarious to watch. But you can't just shotgun a beer without practicing and teaching yourself how to do it, right? Because you got to open up your throat. And if you don't do it properly, it goes down the wrong hole. You can drown yourself, right? You need to be very careful. But the bottom line is that some folks can drink a beer in whatever, I don't even know what it is, but let's just assume it's 2 seconds. Well, they pound it down. They had to learn how to do that. Well, think of your to-do list. Think of what you're up to on a daily basis is similar, but you will have to train yourself to open your throat, right? So the same can be said for that to-do list. The amount that you can get done in record time would blow your mind, but you got to learn how to manufacture it. You got to learn how to create it. One of the things that I do, and sometimes you hear it at the end of this podcast, my alarm goes off 4 times a day, right? 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, noon, and 2 o'clock. And basically that's quarter time for me. And it's just a way to just jog me to say, am I in the zone? Am I working? Am I getting things done? Or am I just in, la la land? Is the day slipping away? And I found since I've done that, I've done it for a long time now, but it's incredibly, it really works well. That's a strategy for me. That might be a horrific one for you, might be a great one for you. I got to tell you, it works pretty well in professional sport, football, having quarters, because all of a sudden, again, if you look at a football game, all the points are scored, not all of the points, but the majority of the points are scored in the last 2 minutes of the half and then the last 2 minutes of the game, right? It'll blow you away at to how many points are scored in those 4 minutes of the game, right? Why? Because the end of the half and the end of the game is coming. Maybe another to-do list checklist, Warren Buffett. He says he has doesn't say he has what he calls a 40-70 rule. So what happens is he gets 40% of the information, and then he makes 70% of his decision on that 40%. And these aren't what he's going to have for dinner. These are billion-dollar capital allocation decisions, right? So in other words, don't wait for all the info. First of all, you're never going to get it all. And then if you do, you're just never going to make that decision. And again, you just end up in la la land. So maybe maybe that's going to help you, right? Being painfully disorganized a little bit, go, 40-70, and that'll help you stop that stickiness of your to-do list. And there's a good chance you don't even have that to-do list. You don't even have your thoughts out of your mind onto paper. When you do that, it'll help you sleep. You've got no idea, but it's not really about procrastination though. it's like a series of bad habits that come together. So in order to like people try to battle procrastination, and then in actuality, procrastination is a series of bad habits that have all come together, right? So again, if you really want to beat procrastination, procrastination isn't the enemy. It's just, it's significantly more micro than that. But bottom line, look, checklists, absolutely, fantastic thing to do. And what you should do with your to-do list, you should set up, one of the things that's very, very proven to be very powerful is to creating a to-do list for tomorrow. Okay. So at the end of today, let's say that it's Monday today. Okay. Create a to-do list at the end of today for Tuesday. That will help you, and it'll help you sleep. It'll calm some anxiety, and quite frankly, it'll set your subconscious mind into motion to start knocking those things over even before your day starts. So yeah, checklists and to-do lists, don't confuse the two. But I think for somebody who's saying they're painfully disorganized, a checklist is going to be a winner chicken dinner. And again, it's proven to work. In fact, there's a book. Actually, I think I wrote a book summary. I wrote an email on it. I read a book, The Checklist Manifesto, which I found to be incredible. Highly recommend it. So if that kind of resonates with you, that might be one you might want to, get to Amazon or wherever. Get that book on your reading list, because very powerful. But so there you go, Road Dog. That's the answer, man. I think checklists and to-do lists and 80-20 probably. Again, I talk about that a lot, so I won't go down the rabbit hole. But just really understanding. Everybody knows 80-20. But the question is, are you applying it in your life? And then if you go no, which is going to be the vast majority, all you need to do is on a daily basis consistently, as you're making decisions and going through your day, just consistently ask yourself, is it 80-20? Is it 80-20? Is it 80-20? Like, make it your screensaver. Take what I do. I create Post-it notes and I pull them all around my computer, right? So you're looking at it constantly, 80-20, 80-20. So hopefully that will help somebody who's painfully disorganized, or about.
So real quick, you'd mentioned, I've got two questions here as a follow-up. One, you said make a to-do list for tomorrow.
Yep.
Any advice on, because I've always heard like no more than 3 to 4 things in terms like here it is. Do you sort of have a rule of thumb that you go by? Is it like 3 or 4 things?
Yeah, I think 3. And okay, I would make a list of, let's just say arbitrarily 10 to 15 things. Now take the 10 to 15 things and circle 1, 2, and 3. Those are the 3 most important things. Think 80-20 as you're deciphering from 1 to 15, deciphering your 1 to 3, your 3 most important tasks, but knock them over. And then if you knock them over straight away, like if you get your 3 most important things that you need to do tomorrow done by 10 a.m., let's say, you're going to have an incredibly productive day, because what happened is you got the snowball rolling, right? But yeah, good question, Road Dog. So my answer is about 3, and they should be highest. The list is a lot longer than that, but it's the 3 most important things, and then you circle them. That's the 1, 2, 3. Those are the first things that you do the next day. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's interesting because I think it's funny. We always, that Tony Robbins, we overestimate what we can do in a year and underestimate what we can do in a decade. I think if you just break that down to a week, it's the same thing, right? It's like, I'm going to do 10 things today. Well, you know what? If you consistently did 3 things a day, 5 times a week, you'd be absolutely blown away by how much stuff you actually got done at the end of the year. But now, that all aside, Karl, like, look, you and I both know there's a bigger beast when it comes to actually getting things done. And I know that some people are probably sitting here thinking, like, procrastination. Like, do you have any tips on beating procrastination?
Yeah, that's a good question. I tell you this, what do you think, Faye? Okay, so here's a question for everybody listening, right? What is the number one reason for procrastination, right? And if I got a room of 100 people, 1,000 people, it doesn't what number of people, very seldom does anybody get this right. I'll give you a second to think about it. The things that you're probably thinking about it, like, procrastination. Look, that's going to be a lack of passion, right? That's going to be a lack of motivation. Oh man, what I got to do, I got to start doing something that I love, and that's going to solve my problem, right? That's untrue. The number one reason for procrastination is loneliness. Dead set, right? Always, whenever I do that, like, eyebrows always go up. Think of a football team, right? So they're training can you picture those guys out on the field? Like, do you think there's any lack of motivation, or is there any procrastination going on out there? Like, hey, Tom, you got to throw the football. He's like, you know what? I'm just going to go grab a sip of water here and let everybody wait, right? Like, this doesn't, you'd stick out like a sore thumb, right? In fact, you'd likely get cut in record time. So, solution, you need to surround yourself with people. Most people are surrounding themselves, by the way, people that are operating at a lower level, or in a lot of cases, like secret haters, just hoping that, everything will go sideways for them. So when I say surround yourself with people, I want you to be surrounding yourself with the right people. No doubt that's, somewhat obvious, but we're looking for people that have accomplished what it is that you want to accomplish. We want people that are 10 years ahead of where you're at now. And then, and that doesn't need to be everybody, right? Like, again, and that doesn't mean that your best bud and your spouse and your siblings and that sort of stuff, but you definitely need to be surrounding yourself with some winners. Like, end of story. What do they say? You're a combination of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and that's proven to be true, right? That's not like an opinion. This is proven to be true. So I would challenge you, who are the 5 people you're spending time with? And again, that doesn't need to mean that you need to poo-poo everybody. But what it does mean that, just level up, start surrounding yourself with a higher caliber of an individual over time. Like Road Dog, what you just said, like everybody this week, it's kind of weird, right? And frankly, it's not going to work, probably. But, just over time, starting to surround yourself with high achiever. Remember, like, we did an event with a guy, like, it was basically, we were both going at it. He had his job, I had my job to present. But at the end of the day, we got an awesome event. The event was filled, a $50,000 event in return, right? Like, that was a success. Cost a couple grand to put on, 50 grand in the jeans. But the next one was up to him and only him. And guess what? Didn't happen. And when it did happen, eventually, not great results, right? So again, loneliness is the challenge. And as I say that, I want you to think of your own events. And if you're wondering why they're not getting done and why you're not pulling them off with regularity and whatnot, you probably find, if you reverse engineer it, that you're going to find, and the word loneliness is not the one that you're probably going to bring to the surface, but that's what it comes down to, right? Like, again, picture the football team, surround yourself with some people that are, doing what you want to be doing. So yeah, loneliness. Another way, maybe, like, think of your purpose, your vision, your goal. Okay, so let's picture it as a plane. Okay, so your purpose, your end game is a plane, right? Well, the motivation is the gasoline that gets it from New York to LA, right? So, and the gasoline, I want you to think of it as what halts procrastination. So basically, there's 4 types of gasoline. And again, gasoline are things that really move you. These are the things that allow you to get up without an alarm clock. You all heard that one? Like, what is it? And here's what you're going to find. Like, the types of gasoline will fall into 4 areas, and that would be material possessions. Okay, so this is the guy that wants to drive the Ferrari or buy the Ferrari. Status. Okay, so that's, you want to be the city's #1 business coach. You want to be the most popular person, valedictorian in high school type of stuff. So status. Then you've got romance, right? Again, if you go to a football field, you see a lot of guys are out there playing football, hoping to pick up a girl, right? Sounds weird, maybe to some, absolutely fact. And then another one is impact, really wanting to, make let's say like a positive impact. And in some cases, it's actually negative. This would, also like, guns and violence would often fall into that one, as well as status. But forget that. Basically, you've got impact, romance, status, and material possessions. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to write down those 4, get a piece of paper, 4 different pieces of paper. And again, on the top of each one, I would write down the 4: material possession, status, romance, and then impact. Put a line down the middle. And on the left, I want you to put selfish reasons why you want this. Okay, so romance, the pretty girl, the good looking dude, whatever that's going to be. So like selfish reasons on the left, and then non-selfish reasons. So the reasons beyond yourself on the right-hand side, right? Now, what I want you to do, the goal here is to work out which one drives you at the highest level, and which one, like where most of your energy is going to be derived from, right? Like as in gasoline. Now, if you're sitting there as you're doing this, you're going to find that, you're going to find a little bit in each of them. But if you really want to, find the magic pill, the one that really is going to crush it for you, again, wake you up without the alarm clock, reverse engineer this, and then look at the one where you're the most envious of others or the most competitive. Okay, so if the neighbor buys the 5 Series BMW and you just can't live without it, then material possessions might be your thing, right? And that's good, bad, indifferent. It's irrelevant. It's just what drives you. And at the end of the day, we want to stop procrastination, right? Or if it's status, like being the big dog on the hill, being, just status, the person that runs the event and gets, in an email, gets 1,000 people there, but you're looking for status. That's, like a lot of business coaches, it's pretty magical. Like you run an event, and even if there's only 10, 25, 30 people in the room, when you walk in and your picture was on the flyer and then you're the one standing and they're all sitting, there's a level of status that automatically comes to that normally resonates at a pretty high level with the business coach. And that's fine. Again, this isn't about judgment and that sort of stuff. Stay away from, be very careful not to use judgment here on yourself or anybody else. It's just, this is your gasoline. This is what's going to wake you up without an alarm clock. And then romance, maybe you're single. You love the idea, of just being, impressing the opposite sex, right? Again, it is what it is. This motivates some people. Others couldn't give a rat's backside. And then the other one, impact, which is pretty obvious, right? So, and again, as a business coach, you're probably going to hear impact and feel like you should go to that one, but this isn't about where you should and shouldn't go. This is just what drives you, and that's okay. Because remember, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to, take procrastination and kick it in the what, right? So basically take those 4, write the selfish and unselfish, non-selfish reasons on the right. And then the one that you are the most competitive around is the one that drives you at the highest level. And then you should probably go, how do I want to word? Like, I want you to go selfish in that specific area, right? So let's assume that it's status and you just love the idea of being, that guy, that gal walking in the room and 30 people looking at you, they sit down and you stand up. That drives you. Okay, well, doing local live events makes a lot of sense for you, right? And that's going to give you the buzz and that's going to give you the energy. And that's what's going to make, it's just, going to make the rest of the snowball turn. Then that's where you should go. But the bottom line, I think that's a very powerful exercise. If you're somebody who struggles with procrastination, work out which one of those, material possession, status, romance, or impact, drive you. And this will help you with procrastination times 10 without doubt. So yeah, Road Dog, that's like procrastination. It's a long-winded kind of topic, multiple areas we could multiple rabbit holes we could sort of go down there, but that's what I would encourage everybody to do. And it's a pretty powerful process, frankly. So there you go, bud.
I like the don't go with what you think, like what it should be, like the impact one. It's funny, right? We're all programmed to say the right thing, but if
exactly,
who cares? Like if it's not going to make a difference if it doesn't move you, right? Same reason.
Well, it comes from it's judgment, right? Because it's you judging, and frankly, it's you judging yourself, which is what would bring you there. But you're 100% correct. You got to stay away from that.
Well, and that's where it just makes sense, right? Like you got to have your target of what you want. So like, you're saying picking up girls in high school, that was your thing. And that's why you joined the cheerleading squad. I get it.
It was amazing, man.
It was, they twirled you up in the air. Like, it's unreal. Hey, by the way, one of our insiders, more on that. One of our insiders wrote something really cool in the comments here. It said, just for prioritization, when you list your tasks and you sign 1, 2, or 3, or A, B, C, D, whatever, right? Eliminate the middle, forcing you to either have high or low level priorities. Thought that was kind of interesting.
Like it. Yeah, I like that. Cool. Yeah, there you go. Well done, Shoots. Well done.
Yes.
The inside, Shoots. The inside.
It's not the outsiders. That's a different book, right? Also a very good one. Who was your favorite one? Who was your favorite character in The Outsiders?
Oh God, Pony Boy. Soda Pop. I nearly named my dog Soda Pop that way, but Pony Boy. Loved him. I loved the movie. That's like probably my second favorite movie of all time. When my wife and I got together, we were talking about movies. She's like, "Oh my God, I love The Outsiders too." We sat there and talked about it. So, yeah. Anyways,
you know what?
What's that?
That would be a good question. Your top 5 favorite movies of all time. I know that The Family Man's on there. That's one that we share. Like
I love it.
Nick Cage is he is a registered beautician in that one, that's for sure. Hey, listen, I just looking at the time here. Okay, so this is a good one. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to open this door. You spent, I believe, all of last year studying this, but somebody asked, I have a client that is an accountant. Any experience with them? And here we go.
Oh.
Welcome, rabbit hole number 2.
So sorry, Road Dog, this is an accountant or somebody with a client that's an accountant? What is it?
I have a client that is an accountant.
Accountant.
Okay?
There we go. Okay. So look, love the topic. Just finished a book. Actually, it's actually going to be coming out. It's been done for a year, but possibly a little bit of procrastination, maybe because I really don't care about another book. But anyways, language of business is accounting. That's the bottom line. Yet 80% of them are struggling. If you give me a room of 100 people and I say, what's the language of business? 80 hands will go up for marketing. Business is just math. So if I were to go help an accountant tomorrow with 100% certainty, well, not 100% certainty because I got to establish that little red arrow, you are here, but I know how accountants operate. Know them well, have probably 100 accountants as monthly clients to work with us. And here's the challenge that they have is they don't want to do personal tax returns. What they want to do is they want business owners, which is probably pretty obvious. But the problem there is that they'll do their taxes, they keep them compliant with the government, right? Do their tax returns and whatnot, and they charge their clients about it depends on the country and all that sort of stuff, but it's like $2,500 a year on average, right? Well, business is just math. And their average unit of sale, they should be moving every client into a $25,000 relationship or above, right? So in other words, what I'm getting at is that's not just charging more to do tax returns, that's providing them consulting. So if an accountant is not doing consulting, they're just missing out wildly, right? So very few businesses get proper financials and they get a tax return and then they refer to as a financial statement, right? Which again is a monster mistake. And basic financials, look, you're talking about, there's 3 of them: balance sheet, income statement, and a cash flow statement. Really, really straightforward, right? But now that they provide them, the average business owner is going to look at it, get totally confused. So you got to help your client read and adjust their business according to their goals. Again, establish little red arrow, you are here, and then where are they going to go? And then help them read those statements to go somewhere. Instead, the client calls up confused and says, so how did this happen? What does this mean? They say, oh, I debited this and then credited that. And this is the adjusting journal entry. And we posted the whole thing to the trial balance. And this is how you got those numbers, right? Yes, matter of factly, that's correct. But what happened, it's totally useless to the business owner, right? An example that we could use, let's say that we're staring at a income statement and we got 2 companies. Okay. So let's say that 2 companies, revenue, one's got revenues of let's say 100, and then the other one has revenues of 1,000. Okay. We got revenues, expenses, profit, just 3 things you need to know, right? Well, if revenue is 100 and then expenses are 95, what's their profit? And then it's 5, right? Pretty obvious. Well, what if the other company has $1,000 of revenue, expenses of 995? What's their profit? Profit's 5. Well, to the average business owner, the profitability of the 2 companies is the same. But these companies have one has $995 of expenses and the other one has 95 in order to, create $5 of profit. Which one would you rather own? Right? One business is, neither of those I describe are all that good, but one of them, if you earn $1,000 and only earn $5, look, you've got a problem. You got some very, very slim margins, right? So the old saying, in fact, again, Road Dog, we talked about this not that long ago, do you want to get big or do you want to get rich? And most business owners are making the mistake of letting their ego drive their business, and not because they're they're egotistical. It's because they don't know any different, right? Or they literally haven't had somebody sit them down and go, do you realize that this is a bad idea, right? That your margins are too slim. Again, it's the business has an accounts receivable problem and they're running Facebook ads to solve their cash flow problem, right? That's as stupid as it gets, but ridiculously common. In fact, the other side of that I must mention, something I refer to as sweetheart syndrome. And that's the business that They basically pay all their bills on time, right? Because I don't like to be in debt. I don't like to owe people money. And then they don't collect their own accounts receivables, right? So imagine the gap that creates. And then they look at their bank account and wonder, where's all my cash? But my accountant just provided me these financials and it looks like I have a profitable company, right? Like crazy. So anyways, just that egotistical, letting your ego run your business would be, a disaster on steroids. So be careful with that. But basically, look, if I'm going to help this might be going down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but if you can follow me here, okay, there's 4 things that I want you to think of. Again, we're helping an accountant here. Okay. But this is helping an accountant. It's just a business. It's the way that the accountant's going to help his companies is the same way that we're helping the accountant, right? So just go like 4 things: 1, management; 2, decisions; 3, activities; and then 4, results, which is money, right? So management is pretty obvious. That's going to be the owners of the company, management, right? Decisions, like let's say that they decide, a decision that they make is that they're going to run a series of webinars. That's going to be the strategy to bring in clients, right? Well, number 3 is activities. So what are they going to do? They're going to advertise in order to make those activities work. And then they're going to run the webinars, right? And then 4 is going to be the results that they made. They charged $5,000 and they got 10 sales. That means they brought in $50,000, right? Okay, the X factor here is step number 3 and step number 4. And this is where an accountant can really, really help. A business coach can really, really help its clients, is that you don't want to just go the way accountants do it. They go activities and then they go results, and they just provide you the results. But what they don't do is go back to step number 3 and say, why don't we adjust some of these activities in order to get different results? So let's say that we were advertising on Facebook. Well, what if we decide that we're going to advertise on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Snapchat? What kind of adjustment would that would cost? No doubt that would cost us more in advertising. It's going to cost us more to run the webinars. But if we end up making 10 sales at $5,000, what did I say? No, I think we did 10 sales last time. So 20 sales. So it becomes, $100,000 that they bring in instead of just 50, and they only spent an extra $10,000 on advertising. Net, like, is this a good idea? And the answer is absolutely. But what we're not doing is going back to the activities, right? So management, decisions, activities, results. The X factor is going from results to activities, making some adjustments, but then weighing the results, because they go back and adjust the activities, but then they don't compare them to the results, right? Like, knowing your blood pressure is 90/50 is meaningless unless you know what it means. You got a benchmark to compare it. You know what's causing it, and you know what to do to change or control it, right? So the solution lies in knowing that there's a problem, like identifying it, right? Knowing which direction it's headed and where they should be, right? Like, as in your blood pressure in this example. And then what activities do we need to change in order to move it in the right direction? And then measuring it as it moves in the right direction, or maybe the opposite, further into the wrong direction, right? The same logic applies with numbers in your business, right? Like, if you don't know where you're going, any road's going to get you there. So you got accounts receivables are $10,000, let's say, of $10,000, profits are $25,000, assets of say $50,000, and then cash on hand, I don't know, let's say we got $30,000, right? Well, without a frame of reference, how do you know these numbers are good, bad? Are they going up? Are they going down? Like, what's the industry average? When somebody runs a webinar and they advertise on Facebook, what's the average unit of sale? And what is the average number of, what's the average conversion? What's the average take home revenue that they derive from that activity, right? And they don't dissect this. And this is the kind of thing, when you start operating your business, picture what I'm describing as a scoreboard, right? Like, when you start operating your business with a scoreboard, it goes to completely different heights. Like, imagine going golfing without tracking your shots, right? And then having a scorecard and tracking it. Like, which way do you think you're going to be able to improve, right? So I think that's kind of obvious, but basically, measuring all of this stuff, which people don't tend to do, but it's not just measuring it, it's now making adjustments and then remeasuring the numbers. In fact, look, there's 3 words that you need to, if I'm going to sit down with somebody and I'm going to teach them accounting, or I'm going to look at their financials more to the point and help them, there's 3 things that I have to have. Number 1 is comparables. I never look at your income statement because it's totally useless. That's like you getting on the scale and it says 200 pounds, right? Well, my question is, were you 180 or were you 220 3 months ago? Or were you 200, right? So I look at your, if I'm going to look at your income statement, I want to look at comparables. Like, give me last year's, the year before, and then this year's, and then maybe even projections for the coming year. So now I've got comparables so that I understand where it's going, right? Now I want you to look at just picture you're looking at financials. You don't need to understand them to be able to understand this. Now there's relationships between the numbers, okay? So let's say that you own a restaurant, your revenue is $1 million, and then your rent is $100,000. Well, that means that the relationship between your rent and your revenue is 10%. Here's my question. Is that good, bad, indifferent? Is that about where you should be? Should it be higher? Should it be lower? Is this something you have to get under control, right? So relationship between the numbers, definitely profitability. So when you're looking at a financial statement, relationships are going up and down, okay? And then trends are going left to right. So when I look at, 2 years ago, your income statement, last year, your income statement, and then, as at where we're at this year, your income statement, I can tell you the trend. Is it going up? Is it going down? Or is it staying the same, right? But without having the comparables, I'm not able to do that. I'm not going to be able to tell you the trends without reading it. I'm not going to be able to tell you the relationships. And if I'm on, like the relationship, what I described earlier, when we had 2 businesses, both with a profit of 5, one had a significantly poorer relationship with their expenses, like as in profits, than the other one, right? So which business would you rather own? Well, most people would rather own the bigger business with the bigger expenses, but that's not necessarily a good idea. That might be, but you got to be able to, you've got to be able to compare all this stuff and put all the numbers down. So basically, look, bottom line is accountants absolutely crush it. They should have 7-figure businesses net all day long. But the reason they don't is that they get stuck doing the busy stuff. They don't do their 80-20. Everything I just described, they do basically none of it. And that is a huge error. And basically their unit of sale is 2,500 when it could be 20. And I say 25 grand. That's an arbitrary number. They might have a $5,000 unit, a $10,000 unit, a $25,000 unit, and then 50,000 and beyond, right? And they would if they're working with some, bigger companies and really getting their hands dirty. But that's the magic of accounting, is going activities to results and then swapping them around, right? But they're not doing it. So also their personality, as you and I talk about, Road Dog, all the time, like people want to be educated, but they'd rather be entertained. So again, an accountant on average, they don't have the greatest personality in the world. So they don't make doing fun business with them. And if you want to take somebody from $2,500 to $25,000, a pretty good idea is to create a relationship where they like you and kind of connected, that sort of thing. So that's an important part of business that gets missed all the time. Like folks that get my emails every day, like I know for a fact that people read my emails for the jokes and the funny stuff more than they do the actual content. And I'm cool with that, because guess what? My job is to get you to the content. And if the jokes get you the content more often than it would if I didn't throw in the joke, well, then the jokes, look, they take some time, believe me. I'm not a very funny guy. I've got to work pretty hard to come up with some entertaining stuff. So bottom line is that that's an important part of it. So being entertaining, if I'm a business coach, when I do an event, getting up there and being entertaining and making fun of myself and that sort of stuff is absolutely part of the roadmap. I'm not just putting people in the room to educate them. I'm putting them in the room to also entertain them without going too far, of course. So there you go, Road Dog. That's my answer to that one, Shoots.
It's interesting because I find it really easy to make fun of you. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where the disconnect lies. Like it's sometimes it's I almost feel bad. It's like taking candy from, you know what I mean? Like
we all know that, Road Dog.
Seriously, it's too easy. Hey, listen, well, yeah, you're in the software business. Somebody wrote a question here that says, "Hey, my client is looking to build some software. Any hints? Besides Run, what other advice would you want to?"
Any hint? Software? Yeah. So look, there's no money in what's easy. I'll tell you that. So I would give them a thumbs up for having the guts, intestinal fortitude, and wherewithal to head in that direction. Expect it to cost twice as much and take twice as long, right? It's kind of the way it goes. Try to sell your users as you're moving along. I've had profit acceleration software. It's really gone to new heights in the last 2 years, but I've had it for 5 years, right? And it was just that it's been good. So my clients have been using it. We've been improving it on the fly. Going and spending $1 million before you launch, as an example, is what I would describe as a really, really bad idea. Not always possible to do it, kind of on the, you know what I mean? Work with your clients as you're working on the software. Definitely look after your software guys, because I got to tell you, if you lose one midstream, that can be a little bit challenging. So software, here's something that I learned a long time ago that I love. This comes from Google, but basically it's called the toothbrush test. And what they mean by that is that Google doesn't work on anything that you won't use twice a day. So think of Google Maps, Google Calendar, email, YouTube, Google Docs. These are things that you're in and out of consistently. Google search, I say that's for sure be in there. So the toothbrush test is that things people are working on twice a day, very, very powerful. And then actually I wrote in my emails recently about this, but would I encourage it? Maybe a different question, but I'll add that in. The factors of production back in the day were threefold: 1, land; 2, physical labor; and 3, capital, right? That's the factors of production. Let's call it 50 years ago, right? Ford and the Industrial Revolution, et cetera, right? Today, the factors of production are information. That's data is the world's #1 commodity by a significant margin. It used to be oil, coffee up there. It's data times a lot. So information, #1. 2, reach/distribution, we'll call it. So distribution. And then #3 is computing power, right? So, kids are going to school learning an antiquated system that's built on, factors of production from 50 years ago. It's almost criminal when you really understand it and look at it. So when they're going to school and doing computer science, outside of that, and this is business wise, by the way, learning a lot of outdated stuff. So I think that's powerful to understand that, and, collecting data, the power that it has. Don't sell the data. That's very, very lame. But, again, building that up makes a lot of sense. Just think of joint ventures and complementary services, that you could bolt your software into. Here's actually I wrote about this in an email. This is some time ago, but DoorDash, when they launched, what they did is they gave away 1 million 1-cent Big Macs, right? So they tied their caboose to McDonald's train, right? Who doesn't want a Big Mac and who doesn't want one for a penny? Well, basically they gave a million, all intents and purposes, they gave away 1 million Big Macs. But what did they get? They got, 1 million downloads, 1 million new users, 1 million new eyeballs. In fact, 2 million new eyeballs. They're on the phone of 1 million, their apps on 1 million phones after doing that, right? Good idea? I'd say so. And it worked very, very well. So that's an example of how they got reach, distribution, how you could do it in maybe a clever way. And then computing power, this is just not going to be a problem. Google Earth was built with satellites all over the world, right? It's one of the things we just did internally, right? Our goals for 2021, and I've got software engineers work for us. And I'm one of the things we're doing is we're sending them for artificial intelligence training, right? And why? It's obviously here, it's far from mainstream, but that's just something that I know that if we're going to be able to bring artificial intelligence in some way, shape, or form into profit acceleration software, it can't be a bad thing. And, we want to be the first ones to do it. So I just finished with, factors of production software. you don't make money in what's not easy. The factors of production now are information, distribution, and computing power. And again, that is not a well-documented thing. So I would highly encourage folks to, be thinking along these lines. And it's not an easy undertaking. So like you said, you might want to run, if you don't have some intestinal fortitude and you're not willing to, pound over some mistakes, it's not going to end well. But that's it, buddy. That's stuff. Those are some hints. The toothbrush test is something that I would put a little star beside over what I just went. But yeah, that's what I'd say, Shoots.
How often should you replace your toothbrush? Personal question.
Every 3 months, Road Dog. What do you think?
3 months?
Of course, I would say every year. I don't know, man. I probably had mine for over a year, so I don't know.
Actually,
what do you think?
I don't know what brought that on besides your toothbrush test. I've got a test who's a client. I'll report back on that one because I think that's important. I only do when I go and see the dentist. They give you free toothbrushes, right? Like, why would you ever buy a toothbrush? Like, seriously. Hey, aside from every 3 months change your toothbrush, what's one thing that people can do from today's podcast and start implementing in their business today?
What's one thing?
Just one.
I think what would have maybe raised some eyebrows, or at least I've seen it done many a time before, and that's when you understand that the number one reason for procrastination is loneliness. I think that's going to hit home for a lot of folks. So I would encourage everybody to be, thinking along those lines. You got to surround yourself, with people. Like, maybe if you're doing a live event, I'm not a huge fan of doing a live event. Like, let's say I'm a business coach. I could bring in an accountant to speak, or I could bring in a financial planner. I'd prefer to keep total control of my room. But at the same time, if that's going to allow you, put your foot on the gas and get your 10 to 25 people in the room and get that presentation, then you know what? Do it as much as anything else to get some momentum, right? As a long-term plan, I would want to control my room, but that could be an example of how you can do something with a partner, and get her done, and again, one of the things, if you're a really good coach and you suck at sales, I've said this a million times and I'll say it a million more in the future, you should hire somebody to generate leads for you and pay them. Don't pay them just on performance. Like, people don't make money. They don't keep working for you. So, pay this person and have somebody generate leads. Some people actually like to do that. All right. But you're a really good coach. So you're going to do the back end stuff, but they're going to help you fill the rooms. They might have somebody with a disability, somebody who's blind, somebody who's handicapped and doesn't get in and out of the house very well. Like, you could hire that person. They could start their own little business contracting for you, filling your local live events and filling your webinars and, making your phone ring with people who are interested in your services. And then, of course, when I speak to somebody, they always tell me, yeah, Carl, I'll hire them when I'm ready. But here's the you guys heard me say this before for sure, but reasons come first, answers come second. I probably heard Tony Robbins say that, by the way, because it's straight from Tony Robbins' lips. But reasons come first, answers come second, right? So hire them now. Don't hire them. You're never going to be ready. That's not the way it works, right? So that's, I think, the number one reason for procrastination is loneliness is the one thing that I would hammer home today, buddy. There you go.
Love it. And again, know your strengths, right? I love that. Like, just stick to, if you're good at coaching, hire somebody. It's like, if I need somebody to get something from the bottom shelf, I'm calling you. I don't have to, but it's just from bending over. It's perfect. Listen, thanks everybody for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the man of the hour and on top of the hill, my boy King Carl. And again, we talk about this insider thing a lot. If you're not on the inside and just want to get more information and get access to the pre-show, or also you're not getting Carl's daily emails, you just want information about how to build your coaching company, visit focused.com and subscribe today. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone that you think might make a great coach, someone that's a great salesperson or just a highly motivated type. And of course, as always, we'd appreciate that if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes and Spotify give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. Well, Big Shooter, that's it for another week. I can't believe it, and I look forward to the next episode. Until then, remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at Focused.com.